Hello, book club community. I have finally finished Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Now, when I first did my TBR for this one, I thought that the actual title of the book was Charlotte Bronte, which is not the case. That's the author, actually. That being said, wow. I didn't realize that this was such an old book. The book says here that it was written in 1847, and we're talking a book now that's been written over 100 years ago. Yeah, 1847. That's over 100 years ago. And as I'm reading it, it is still current today as it would have been 100 years ago. I really enjoyed this book. What I really enjoyed mostly about this book is this is the first book that I read that the author is able to keep a age group of what she was talking about. Like, the gist of the story is, it starts off as a young child that was orphaned and then sent to a family who didn't really love her, didn't really want her. They then sent her to a school that was god-awful, and not right for her. And she persevered through that and became a teacher at that school for 2 years. She was then sent to be a governess. Lots of details there I'm not going to get into because I don't want to spoil the book because it's phenomenal. From being a governess, she is alone and nearly starving, and then she's a schoolmistress, and then she meets her family, and then she becomes filthy rich and then goes back to the man she loves, which isn't as you expect either. But what I like the most about this is when she was a child and you were talking or reading about that part of her life, she wrote it in a way that a child would, with a simple view of black and white justice, of black and white right and wrong, and of the innocent I'm always right view of the adults really don't know what they're talking about, that kind of view. And as she's more educated and becomes more civilized, so does her writing, and she sticks with the age group of what she's writing. Now, when they first wrote this, it says in the beginning she wrote under a male name because women, of course, were considered one that wasn't able to write because, of course, we were dumb and not good at what we did and that kind of thing. So think of the time of the era that she was writing, and she was able to do something this phenomenally well done. And I think I try to compare this one to, say, Moby Dick, and this one, yes, is descriptive, very descriptive, but it's descriptive to the point where that puts you more into the subject matter, it puts you more into the book. You feel like you are struggling along with Jane as she continues this journey. And halfway through this, she has to make a decision between basically her God or her wants. And the strength of this character is phenomenal. And the true and utter pain of what she has to go through to make this choice, it's raw and it's real and so very enjoyable. I think what I like most about this book is the character is honest. Yes, it is a story, so in the end things kind of get tied up nice and neat, but that comes with fiction. But it's an honest book about the struggles of what a woman needs to go through and the class system, and how even if you're in the lowest of low in class system, if you are the epitome of peon in the class system, your brain isn't. I mean, that's the whole concept, isn't it? Your brain doesn't keep you down below. It's just the class system that keeps you down below. And we have that class system here. We treat people differently here on what we judge, and it's heartbreaking. You meet characters in this book that you really get attached to. There's one a young child character that was very humble, and even when she didn't get stuff and she was mercilessly, like, put upon at school and never seemed to get anything right, she took her punishments with, like, you know, if she didn't keep herself straight, or if the drawer or stuff that her drawer was not neat, she'd be like, yeah, you know what, I probably should have kept that neat, my bad. Like, she took the punishments with this honesty, with this reserve and a wisdom way beyond her years, and then something happens to her that's just, it's heartbreaking. This is the only book too where I've actually written in it, because there's quotes in here that I adore. This is a book that I'm going to read again and again and again and again. I think every time that I do read it, I'm going to get something new out of it. So what I'm going to say with this one is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Phenomenal book. Awesome book. Thank you so much, Pam, for recommending this book and telling me it's a good story, because you know what? I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It's a nice, easy read. I got it done in a few days, which for me is good, because it's a fairly good book for a big book and a little small writing. So, very pleased with this book, and I would recommend it to anybody. So that's that. Now, as I'm reading this, my magazine's got behind schedule again, so I've got 3 magazines to read before I can do my next book. But all in all, love the book, and once I get these magazines done, we will be able to move on to the next one. So thank you very much, guys, and happy reading.